What's on your mind, Squatch Nation? This Monday night, you are taking over the airwaves. That's right, it's open mic night on Sasquatch Watch Radio. No scripts, no filtered interviews, just you, your theories, and your encounters. We are live this Monday, June 1st at 9 p.m. Eastern. Want to grab the mic and join the show? It's simple. Email us right now at sasquatchwatchradio@gmail.com and we'll reply with your direct studio link. The lines are open and the watch is on. We'll see you Monday at 9.
Hey everybody, you're watching Sasquatch Watch Radio. It's Monday night, 9 o'clock. You got the right time, the right station. It's June the 1st, 2026. Tonight we're going to be doing something new. This is going to be an open mic night where I ask you guys what you want to talk about. You guys can come on. Reach out to us, squatch.com, whatever, get a hold of us. Put it in the chat if you don't want to be on the show, and we'll talk about it. So this is going to be an interesting show. I hope everybody enjoys it. We're going to get started. I've got a guy already lined up here. He's on about every Monday night, asks really good questions. I met him in Norton during the Wood Booger Festival last year. He actually gave me one of his books. Really good guy. We're going to bring on Ray Mosley.
Hello,
hey,
everybody.
Ray, how you doing?
How's it going, Gary?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Been a long week already, but you know, you got to struggle through it sometimes.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. Ray, I want to give you an opportunity. We talked a little bit before we come on the show tonight. You've got several books out right now. Let us know about what kind of books you got and where people can find them at.
Okay, I got 22 books total out right now. Only 2 of them would pertain to the show. A lot of them are either poetry or horror stories because I got bored and started writing. But as far as the Bigfoot stuff goes, I have the field guide to ghosts and cryptids. That would be on Amazon under my author page, amazon.com/Ray Mosley, as well as Bigfoot's the Lizard Man. Little bit of a clickbait title, but it does go over an experience I had right here at my house, as well as my thoughts on how things were from my investigations when I didn't know how to do any of it. It's an interesting read, I'd say.
You gave me a copy of the Sasquatch is the Lizard Man, and it's not a huge book. I read through it, and I was kind of interested in you know, your thoughts and stuff on it like that. If you guys are out there, where can they find your books at again?
Amazon.com /Ray Mosley.
Excellent. And in the book, your premise is, now it's been a year since I've read it and I've slept since then, so my mind is all I'll be 57 this year, so it's catching up with me, pal. But if I'm not mistaken, the premise is that you believe that a lot of the cryptids are one cryptid, and they just appear differently. Is that correct?
Kind of. A lot of your Bigfoot and very similar sized cryptids may be the same creature, right? And I know it's reaching a little bit for some of this thought process, but essentially down in the South, you've got the Lizard Man, right? You see that a lot more than just Bigfoot. And then you get a little bit further and you've got Bigfoot or the skunk ape. And as you go more north, they seem to get, you know, slightly bigger, but, you know, you'll have, you know, what they call the classic patty. And then, of course, like a Yeti. But I think they're all the same cryptid, you know. because we have this issue where sometimes we find fur, but it turns out to be an animal. Like, I believe Bigfoot is hunting creatures, probably, like an ambush predator, most likely, because I don't see it making bows and arrows, things like that. And then, in some instances, I believe it could be partially wearing the furs of these animals, which is why you might see a lizard man. It's got him a good sized crocodile, because there ain't too many things out there that you can, kind of wear their skin that's going to be big enough, other than maybe a crocodile or an alligator. And, then a lot of deer and bear seem to be targets to me as I look through it all. And that's kind of where I think we get that skunk ape from. Like, a lot of people report the bad smells. It's probably from those furs and stuff that they're wearing on themselves. And a lot of your misidentification is people wearing suits is probably because they're kind of wearing a suit. And I've talked to a few people about it, and they said, well, why would they do that? And I'm like, my answer is, why did people do it? We felt like we needed to put something on. Having done a lot of deer hunting, deer don't care if there's a dead animal nearby. It doesn't keep them away, right? But if you're going after something like a bear, right, they're going to be attracted to it. So you're not getting rid of deer, and you're still attracting bear. Having, that dead animal smell, not a bad thing for an ambush predator. I don't,
I'll say this too. Even with that being said, a lot, like everybody has been around dogs. Okay. When a dog rolls in something, it's always something horrible. And they come back in and they stink, and they got some type of animal poop smeared all over them and everything else. Dogs actually do that to mask their own scent. That's kind of a throwback to when they were pack predators before they became house pets. And they're actually camouflaging themselves. They're changing their scent. So it's really nice.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, and this kind of brings me into a question that I wanted to ask you. I'm going to call it crossing cryptids. Now, based on your premise that, we might be seeing the same type of creatures or things like that, and them wearing different skins, there's been a lot of reports throughout the years of Bigfoot actually stealing clothes and wearing them. There was one report, and I can't remember where it came from because I read so many of these things, that it appeared that this one Sasquatch that ran through these people's yard had a cape. It was a deer skin cape that he had on. And I think it's, incredible that, these people have these sightings of these creatures wearing some type of clothes or making some type of clothes. And it doesn't rule out that, we could be looking at the same type of cryptid, just in a different costume. That makes a lot of that's one of the premises of the book that I was really fascinated with, because there are those encounters where they have had on some type of animal hides or human clothing or something like that. But the crossing cryptids, what I'm interested in about it is, like, a lot of people will misidentify. Like, people say, "Oh, you didn't see Bigfoot, you saw a bear." And just, so everybody out there knows, we've talked about this a million times on the show. Anybody that's watched the show's heard me say this. When you look at a bear and it's standing up, it's pretty intimidating. But a bear is really tubular. They're round. No shoulders, no nothing. It's a big, long neck and a tube body. And when you see Sasquatch, it has shoulders.
For sure.
and that's a dead giveaway. Do you think that people might be, yeah, do you think that I kind of blanked out there for a second, sorry. Do you think that people might be misidentifying Sasquatch as some of these other cryptids that they might be seeing?
There's a possibility. Like if he's, like I'll use the lizard man, like which was, how I made the clickbait title. If he's got on enough alligator skin, right, and you've seen him just long enough for him to get out in front of your car and back to the other side, you're probably going to say you've seen a big lizard, right? Because you don't have time to see if there's like a little gap. You don't have time to see, that's just, you got time to catch a good glimpse as it's going, Even someone is good at, looking at something and saying that I know what I saw as I am, might go, I think I seen a lizard, and it's not out of the realm of possibility for me that that's the case with some of this, we talked, it's been a few podcasts back. You're talking about the white Bigfoots, right?
Yes.
I'd put in the chat that, I had seen what I thought was a Fresno walker, right? But it was far enough away, I couldn't tell for sure exactly what I was seeing. It was just, I'm in my blind, waiting on deer and, 7-8 foot of, just white walking and, the top half is kind of obscured by the trees, so all I get is like this part. I don't think there was a polar bear running around my woods. I'm in East Tennessee, and I don't think we got any white bear running around, so I thought Fresno walker for the longest time. And then you said there was white Bigfoots, and I'm like,
In Texas, Texas is real prevalent. They call them the white things in Texas. And I'll say this too. Most of the United States has bears. Not all of the United States have grizzly bears. But there has been some misidentification of what people say, oh man, this is a grizzly, but it's actually just a black bear. Black bears have color phases, and I believe that's present too in just about every animal out there, and including Sasquatch. Black bears can be black, they can be brown, they can be chocolate colored, cinnamon colored, blonde, white. There's all these different colors. And granted, a lot of these colors are really rare, but you still see them. But when it comes to Bigfoot,
the reason I went with Fresno walker originally is because I couldn't see this top portion of the body that well, right? But the legs, I could see that very well. If that was a bear, it's got the longest back legs I've ever seen on a bear. Just saying. Those legs.
Here we got a comment here from Roger Holler. I'll bring that one up if I can get it to play. We have reports here about the white thing. I'm in Tennessee, about 20 miles from Alabama, and about 25 miles as the crow flies from Flintville, Tennessee. I actually had a report of a blonde colored Sasquatch in between Virginia and Kentucky. It actually happened in a little place called Elkhorn City, Kentucky, where it jumped off the road. The guy said it jumped from the cliff off into the road and landed like he called it, it was his wife that was telling me a story. The guy that had the sighting, unfortunately, has passed. But it jumped into the road with a superhero stance. It landed, on one knee with its one hand on the ground and the other one kind of pulled back, just like you see on these Marvel superheroes thing. And it then jumped from there across the guardrail down towards the river. Now, I know this particular stretch of road because it's really not that far from where I live at here in Virginia.
Yeah.
And from that part of the road down to the river is probably conservatively about 50 feet. I think probably more accurately, it's probably about 65 or 70 feet. But he thought it was somebody trying to commit suicide because he saw the blonde hair. And he run to the guardrail to look, and there was nothing there. So this thing jumped over the bank 50 some, 60 some feet and was gone. So
yeah, if I jumped 50 feet off a bank, I'd be gone too.
Yeah, I guarantee it. But another thing, with the crossing cryptids, I do believe that a lot of people are seeing something, but I don't necessarily think that they're seeing some of these other cryptids. My big thing is the dog man. I have a hard time with the dog man, and I'll tell you why. It's because I can give a description of the Sasquatch that I saw, and it will basically match the description of any upright bipedal primate throughout the entire world. The way it was covered with hair, how it walked, the height, and things like that. Whereas all the reports that I've read on Dogman are really kind of hit and miss. Some of them say, oh, it had a big long tail. Some of them say, no, it didn't have a tail. Some of them say it has really tall, pointed ears. Some people say, no, its ears were kind of small and rounded. So the description is just not consistent. And I don't know if it's where, you don't have a lot of sightings of it, or if it's just, they've seen something else. So that's an important thing to think on.
A lot of that could be, to my theory, if they're wearing skins, right?
Yep.
And it's got longer pointy ears in this sighting, it's probably because the thing that it's wearing, their skin had longer ears. A lot of people report their pets missing. So you may find, a very pet-like head on top of here. It's going to be very big because, like I said, Sasquatch is very big. And I'm not saying that all Sasquatch do it, but I'm also not ruling out that they don't. And that some of the ones that look like they're in a suit, or some of the Dogman sightings or Lizard Man, I'm not saying that they definitely are Bigfoot, just that I believe that a lot of those could be.
And I'm in the same boat. I really do.
I've been to the LBL. I didn't get any experiences there other than a good time. I did several hunts nearby here in Jefferson City. There were some reports of a dog man. Never found the dog man. Like I said, the one time I run into Bigfoot, was like a week-long encounter. You know what I mean? But I've not found him since, but I know he's there, so I'm not discounting Dogman, but I'm also not saying that I know he's there either. Just that I think some of that could be Bigfoot, probably with, your dog's fur on him. It's kind of gruesome to think about, but
there is definitely a relationship, a kind of hate relationship between Bigfoot and dogs. That is for sure. That is for sure.
It was actually my cat. I had went outside one morning. I was going to work, and something had just barely caught my eye as it was going around a corner there. And that's when I had seen my daughter's cat. We had just got her this kitten, and in the book, I don't, draw it quite perfect because it would be very gruesome, but it kind of looked like someone had taken a scalpel, right, and went straight down the cat and flipped it inside out like this, so that the fur was on the inside. And I don't even think I could have cut that cleanly, and I'm kind of a knife guy, It was something to see. That's when I started, kind of looking around, what could have done this. And my initial thought was coyotes like everybody else, but, it didn't match up, and I didn't hear coyotes anywhere. We had them in the area before, but me and a couple of farmer guys that raises horses off this way, we ended up running them off. The ones that that didn't end up unalived got run off anyway.
I got a question here from Mick Fearson, and I know you're from Tennessee, and we've got a guy on here, Roger Holler from Tennessee. Mick says, I'm heading down to Mount Juliet, Tennessee on the 14th of June. Any hot spots near there? Anybody heard anything around the Mount Juliet area of Tennessee?
That's more middle Tennessee, isn't it?
I'm not really for sure.
I don't know Mount Juliet really that well. I'll just pull up the Google map real quick. I'll tell you. If it's where I think it is, yeah.
So right while you're looking at that, I'm gonna pose a question for you. Yeah. And
straight north of Mount Juliet is where a lot of the werewolf sightings went on.
Roger says northern middle Tennessee.
Yeah, I forget the name of that park, but I plan on going out there not too long from now. It's like Werewolf Park or something.
Roger says Wolf Creek. Mick is from Canada. Anybody that's in the chat can see that. Which now Canada's got their own. Canada's got their own set of cryptids up there that's pretty weird. Ray, I'm gonna ask another question. When it comes to culture, do you believe that Sasquatch has its own type of culture? Or do you believe it's more animalistic and just kind of pack living?
The one that I dealt with seemed to be like a transient, figuring out where to go because maybe it was run off from one place or another. So like the only one I actually have physical experience with, right, didn't seem to have any sort of like family unit or anything around that I could figure out. But I wasn't, actually into hunting these things or anything at the time. I was just too dumb not to run away, right? So, but I've read up enough on enough people's experiences that I think they probably do travel some in family units, but that's not every one of them. I think a little bit like people, you got loner people, you got pack people, and I think that's probably a little bit like that. You just whichever one you run across is what you run across. And each family unit is probably like humans. They're going to have their own rules, their own way of doing things. That's my thoughts on that.
Okay. I'm kind of in the same boat. I really believe that the one I saw was a transient. I'm not for sure if it was either a younger male that had been kicked out, and if it was a younger male, I'd hate to see what that Jasper looks like now because it was massive. And a guy I had on a couple of weeks ago, Wesley Rose, he's from here, and Wes saw one in 2007, about a year after I saw mine. And the descriptions match. I mean, the descriptions are identical. The color, the size, and it's really relatively close. So,
it being transient and it being large around that same time frame you had yours and he had his. It's about when I was having my experience. So,
yeah,
it potentially the same one rolling through.
It could be. The color pattern on mine it wasn't brown. It wasn't exactly red. It was that cinnamon color. Kind of like a cinnamon black bear. It was just, and the size of it was massive. And I'd always expected something more like Patty, but that's not what I got. What I got was more human looking, and just I describe it as the Incredible Hulk with hair, is what it looked like. It was built. I mean, it was built. Environmental clues. What type of environmental clues do you look for?
Well, first, I mean, I look for if people have had sightings, reports, things like that. If there's anybody's had an experience, like I would look for that first, because otherwise I'm just walking around in the woods looking for nothing. Like last night, I talked to you last night about it, but I was, some people had said they heard some noises up at camping, and I went up there to just go listen. I never heard nothing out of the ordinary up there, but that still doesn't mean they didn't hear it the other night. It just means I didn't hear it last night.
Yeah.
But like that, I might look to see if there's been experiences, things like that. That's what I'm going to look for first before I start moving to an area to do any searching. But as far as environmental, like I'm going out there looking, I'm going to be looking for disturbed areas is what I would call it. Like the leaves are going to be moved, or branches snapped where there shouldn't be branches snapped, but then I'll try to make sure it doesn't look like humans did it, because it's easy to snap a twig or move brush around. If things have been disturbed, that's what I look for first, because that's an easiest sign to find, is if things don't look natural. That's first if I'm out in the woods.
I think one of the first things that I look for is, it's just the three basics. Food and water, for starters. Is there going to be enough there to support something that large? Another thing that I look for is cover and concealment. Is there enough area there that something can maintain, it being hidden or whatever? And the third thing is definitely activity. Definitely activity. But
That's
if you've got
disturbing.
activity in one area, that's a big thing. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I look for stick structures, and I look for this, and I look for that." I'm not real versed on stick structures. I've seen them. I don't have a clue what they mean or anything else. It's hard for me to figure out. So I don't know if it's, leading you somewhere, or if it's used as a boundary marker or whatever. But I've definitely seen stick structures. I don't know what they mean. And that can be kind of disturbing too, because that could be a big do not enter sign. And here I am walking through there like some kind of chump, just waiting to get thumped. But another question for you is identification of evidence. And when I say identification of evidence, people get confused on a lot of evidence. One of the things is footprints, and I'll just say that. There is definitely a difference between a footprint and an impression. Okay? I can look at an impression and tell you, yeah, that looks human-like. But when you look at a footprint, you can say, yeah, that definitely looks, humanish, just not the same size. Here's a good one from Mitch Sandman. I'm going to pop this one up, Ray, and see what you think about this one. Do you believe that they follow our needs as far as eat, sleep, and prank their friends?
Pretty much everything has to eat, sleep, prank friends. I don't know, but I mean, if I was a Bigfoot, absolutely. Just saying. Everything, even your dog likes to play with a toy. So everything has a playful side. I don't know what their playful side is, but like the throwing the rocks could be a playful thing. It could be a warning. I don't know. I'm sure there are some smarter scientists out there that have analyzed that to the teeth and they know exactly what it is. It ain't me. But as far as like eat and sleep, I don't know if it's the same as ours. I believe they're ambush predators, mostly eating meats. But that's me, because I don't have their poop to tell what they ate. I haven't watched them eating. I just in my head something that big, potentially wearing skins is killing prey and eating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We're not finding a bunch of wasted bodies laying around. You know what I'm saying? So
I've only heard of one person that mentioned something like that. And we talked to him here on the show where he said at one point they had found like half-eaten squirrels. And it was like just like you said, the skin had been peeled back.
Yeah.
And it was like something was just sitting there snacking on it, he said. It's like you find half of a Snickers bar somebody's discarded, was what I think he said.
Kind of like the cat was done. And it's like It was just, it's like they unzipped it and peeled it back. And
But back to the identification of evidence. How do you go about identifying what evidence you find?
It really depends on what I'm hunting. You know what I'm saying? Because I do ghost hunting and stuff as well. But like as far as like Bigfoot evidence goes, like in my book, you can see all the mistakes I made because I didn't know anything about what I'm doing at all. I laid it all out there like a raw nerve. If I screwed it up, believe me, it's in there. But like if I'm looking for prints, or if I'm listening for sounds, it just depends. Each one is identified differently, and like I said, I identify what my goal is on a hunt before I go. Like yesterday, my goal was listening because somebody had said they heard some weird noises. Want to know if I could identify it, So I would just listen. If I can hear it, I can compare that to other animals that either I know or don't know, so I can identify what it is I'm hearing. If I can't identify it, it's in an unknown category, which is a possible, could be something like a Sasquatch or whatever, because I don't know. So it's more of like an unknown category than I know for sure, right? Like a footprint. I don't carry casting stuff with me. I learned how to do all that, but I don't do that. Because even if I had a cast, what am I going to do with it? I mean, I don't know enough about feet to tell you a whole lot about it. But if I knew someone around here that could, I might start doing like a plaster cast or whatever. But that's really not my forte. I'm typically looking for video evidence because that's the easiest thing for me to carry. You always got a cell phone on you, or I've got the video cameras because I'm already doing the paranormal investigations as well. So cameras are pretty handy. We had discussed like the orbs and stuff, right? In a couple of different shows. I've got a couple of different EMF meters that I'm going to try to bring because they do different spectrums of the EMF spectrum, and then I might want to see what those orbs might be influencing, so I can help determine where it might have come from. Like ball lightning is going to have a certain frequency, and we can rule that one out. Then we know that those are wrong. If it is quartz, that'll have a different frequency. And we can rule those in or out just using the different pieces of equipment for that. So, whether that's from Bigfoot or not, even if I do find the orbs, that's a whole different ordeal. Like attaching it to Bigfoot is different than just identifying what frequency it is. So,
I want to welcome on our next listener right here. We got a member of the Graybeard Society, just like me. Mr. Roger Holler from out of Tennessee. Roger, how are you, brother?
Doing good, y'all. Hey, I think you had my co-host Amanda Stowers on, and I watched
Yes,
from
the Bigfoot
Georgia.
lady.
Yes, and y'all did a great job. And I'm like, you know, I like these guys. They think like we do. You ask great questions. And like like some of the things Ray was saying, that's how you have to think, right? Everything's not a Bigfoot. You have to rule out things, and you're doing a good job, Gary. You know, I watch when I can, and I appreciate you doing what you're doing, because we need to talk
Yeah,
about this. We need to,
yeah, I appreciate it. Realistically, Bigfoot's kind of a big subject.
mhm,
Okay, it's out there everywhere. And I live here in the southwestern section of Virginia. I'm right on the border with Kentucky. I live close to Tennessee. I live close to West Virginia. And, it's all this big mountainous region right here. And every year, me and my wife, we drive down to South Carolina for vacation. So we drive down to Isle of Palms, spend a week relaxing, getting a little beach therapy, which is kind of good for the soul. But anyway, you would be surprised the amount of people you pass that's got some kind of Bigfoot sticker on there.
mhm,
And it's a wide subject, but it is a little talked about thing.
right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the people that we have that are talking about it are really narrow minded with kind of their own agendas.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
my agenda is the truth.
Find the
I
truth.
want the
That's right.
truth. Yeah,
Well,
I saw something and I want to know everything I can know about it.
I that's why I say we think alike, because that's what happened to me. I was 14 years old in 1985. Wasn't thinking about anything like this. One stepped out in a field in the daylight right in front of me. I was an outdoors kid, and it changed. It changed me. It was about 30 seconds. I got a good look. Got to watch it walk up a hill. It looked at me. But um, you didn't have those stickers back then. You didn't have the people that were, um, back then. I don't even know if the patty film was stabilized yet, and so I've lived most of my life with this on my shoulders, and just in the past 6 years have felt comfortable enough to talk about it, and it led me to starting a podcast because I wanted to know the truth also, Gary. I'm like, what's the best way? I mean, I didn't know anybody in this area, and I'm I told my story to a guy I co-hosted for a very few episodes, and I was, I'm really shy, but sometimes you just got to step over that line, and
Mm-hmm.
um it I started my show so I could get guests and ask questions. And y'all might see me in chat interacting with people, because I love the different ideas. I've been fortunate enough since 2020 to meet some great researchers and learned a lot. Ray, don't beat yourself up. I've messed up more evidence getting started than
Oh, sure.
collected. So, and then people say, well, you should have done this, you should have done that. And I said, well, you wasn't there with me. I wouldn't. I did find several tracks at the LBL about 3 years ago. It was in November, the week of Thanksgiving, and it hadn't rained in 2 months. I don't know if y'all remember that drought, and then it rained a little bit around midnight that night, and they're like, "Why didn't you cast those prints?" I said, "If I'd had 100 pounds of casting material out there by myself, there still would be no cast, because they were too fresh." I was scared. I just say it like it is, you know, you're out there in the middle of nowhere, and but yeah, it's all a learning process, and these are the best conversations right here, because the great questions, the people in chat. So you know, I talk too much, so if,
No, you're
you know,
good. And I'm gonna tell you that's what I look for. I look for people that's gonna have something relevant. What's going on? Some good information. I love, and I think this is probably one of my greatest downfalls. I love a good Bigfoot story.
Yeah. No. Well.
Tell me your story. I love that, and it kind of, like I said, it kind of brings me back to my own personal sighting.
But it makes you feel better, right?
Yeah, because now you're not the only one.
Exactly.
And I've said it on the show a few times. The one that I saw, other than it being just completely enormous and the cinnamon red color, it had hair under its arms that come all the way down through here to its wrist that hung down. It was longer. And it looked like it was kind of rolled up like dreadlocks. And I worked in corrections. So, I'm really familiar with dreadlocks.
So it didn't look groomed. It was just because
it was kind of the hair under its arms. I mean, the rest of it looked kind of manicured, I guess.
Right.
But just that long hair was kind of rolled up. And I thought it was, arm swing was kind of my thoughts on it. And I described that long hair under its arms and stuff and how it was kind of rolled up. Never heard anybody else say anything about it. And I'm like, people are going to think I'm making it up.
No,
but
I have. I think Ray said it while I was listening. You'll have a million different types of reports because these things look as different as we do.
Yeah.
And there, it's just not a cookie cutter. Like this is what this is what one looks like. Cause one of my good friends I grew up with, I had no idea he had seen one, and he was within 20 feet. He caught him. Him and his brother caught one trying to steal a calf. And they had been fishing, and he said the same thing. The one he saw close up had that long hair here, and he said he looked kind of groomed, and a breeze was blowing, and it was kind of wispy in the wind. So yeah, I've heard every different thing, and now in the past 3 or 4 years, I've been lucky enough to see about 4, and one of them was in Talladega National Forest. He was so massive. My wife has a Z71 Chevy, and his shoulders was almost as wide as the front end of the truck. But in Bankhead, yes, sir. It's people don't realize when you lay your eyes on them, it shuts things down that you're trying to take in. You're scared. Then you realize how big they can get. But on the flip side, I was with Greg Howes in North Alabama here, not far away. He's one of my good friends now. We were in Bankhead National Forest, and him and my son, we're in a Jeep, and we're going way back in the middle of nowhere. He's showing us where he's, had encounters and all. And I look over and I see a deer feeder standing up, but I also see something on 2 legs, fully black. But it was confusing because it was thin. It was tall and thin, and I clearly saw at least 3 steps before it pivoted and turned away. But we're in this Jeep, bouncing, and I'm like, Greg, there's nobody supposed to be here, right? And he said, no, nobody's back here. And I'm telling you, it does something to you. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the shock of it. I don't know. And even though, and people will tell you, Ray, if you go out there and do your thing, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Well, hey, you come out here with me and keep me calm and cool. Greg says one of the best things that I've ever heard. Why don't you get a good picture? Why don't you get a good picture? And he's like, listen, I can take you to the Birmingham Zoo, give you a $10,000 camera, and tell you to take pictures of tigers. He said, you'll get a bunch of them, but if I throw you in the cage with that tiger, how many pictures are you going to get?
There you go.
One of the things we talk about, like at my job, is, when that initial hit of adrenaline hits you, there's a physiological reaction in your body. You can't use those exact fine motor skills to take pictures. You'll be fumbling like this the whole time, trying to get your hand to hold the camera, much less actually take a picture, until you've gotten used to that and trained yourself to even do that.
And I've always,
your first initial responses is going to be, you're either going to be fight, flight, freeze, and then you're going to be stuck in this mode where basic motor skills is all you've got.
And think about this.
Or
we're probably all close to the same age. And I've said, if anybody ever gets a good clear picture video, it's going to be a kid that knows how to use the iPhone or the smartphone quicker than me. And if the average encounter is 4 or 5 seconds, that makes it impossible to pull my phone out of my pocket unless you have it ready or a GoPro going or something. Then you got to get lucky and it's pointing the right direction. So all the naysayers and all the critics, they serve a purpose. I understand it. They just don't want it to be real because that's scary. To them, in their mind, you go to Prime or Hulu or wherever and watch a Bigfoot movie. They're 99% of the time, they're the monster. So in the general public's mind, if they do exist, they're a monster. So we don't want it to be real. The real discussions like this are valuable. And I saw some of the people said, hey, I see some familiar names here. But, Sandman said, say you got to be pure of heart, this and that. It seems to really matter. 10 years ago, I'd have thought, well, what? But now, since we've been going, we've got research areas. I kind of, and I've talked to Native American friends. I believe there's a little bit to that. I don't know, y'all.
I'll say this, Roger. I think that there is a little bit to that, and I'll tell you why too. Anybody that's a hunter, if you go out and you're really revved up and that's all you're thinking about and all that other stuff, you're not going to see a whole lot of deer. You're not going to see a whole lot of, whatever you're hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason for that is number one, you're revved up. You don't have your center. You're not listening. You're not watching. You're making more noise than you should be. You're moving more than you should be and all of that. So I think, that does kind of play into it a little bit. If you do go out kind of calm and all that stuff, that helps because now you're more centered. And I'm going to tell you what, we did investigations on this one property in Spotsylvania County, Virginia. And I have never seen this much activity in my life. I'm not, it's movies don't even have this much activity in them. You know what I'm saying? It was every night, everything that you can think of, screams, wood knocks. We saw orbs. We saw, figures running through the field, everything. And the first night that I was there, I was completely shut down. There was so much going on that I couldn't think. And that's kind of rare for me because I'm a Marine veteran. I'm a combat Marine veteran. I worked at a maximum security and a super maximum security prison here in the state of Virginia. So I'm used to being in really high, intense, volatile situations.
But it's different.
But it was so much that my brain just shut down. I couldn't think. I couldn't get, my thoughts in order. I couldn't do anything that I needed to do. That's like the phone thing you was talking about. Man, being able to pull that phone out, and I'm gonna say this too, and this is my own personal opinion, and I don't want to offend anybody or anything. Everybody's got a cell phone. That's why they say you can't get a picture. Why don't you get a picture? You got a phone. Why don't you get a picture? You got a phone. iPhones and cell phones were the best invention for Bigfoot because number one, it's already elusive, and you're not going to get a good picture. Hey, look, this phone is great for taking a picture of whatever you're eating so you can send it to all your friends and make them jealous.
The lens is too small for a 40-yard. Yeah.
It's not made to project out and get a good photo.
Right.
But for question for both of you here, what do you do to maintain that calm, that center when you're out investigating?
How did you maintain calm when you were in the military? It was training, it was experience. When your training takes over, so don't feel any of you that's had a sighting and freaked out, don't feel bad because I've just now started, because I started going with seasoned researchers that have been doing this for decades, and I feed off of their reactions and I trust them. If it's time to go, it's time to go, or whatever. I'm gonna take care of myself. But it's amazing when you're around experienced people, no matter what you're doing. If your new job at a prison or whatever. I was a CO for a couple years a long time ago, so I understand you have to poker face a lot of things. Don't show your fear. Don't, you know. But y'all, this is different. I don't know whether, I'll just say this: something that's not supposed to be real, and there it is. Your body reacts to it, and it's hard to control. And so, only thing I can suggest is get more experience, and still, you're not gonna. It's not cookie cutter. Once again, you could see one and everything be okay, and then the next thing you look over and there's one beside you. You don't know what you're going to do, right? You think, well, I'd like to do this and I'd like to do that. All that goes out the window. You know, it's just I've lived it. So, but the ones that are more calm have been doing it for longer, if that makes sense. So that's
Wait, what do you do? What keeps you calm while you're doing your investigations?
Pretty much the exact same thing he said. It's just training and experience. Like I said, you know some of the training that I've been through. We've all been COs. I'm still actively CO. You know, I did before that. I did a whole lot of hunting, so I was quite used to being in the woods. You know, there was a little bit of a culture shock moving from the swamp to the mountains here. You know, back in '97. You know. It was in the middle of a blizzard. I didn't like. I can't go gig a frog. You know what I mean? How am I going to feed myself? It was a little interesting experience, but I mean, I got used to the mountains as well. You know, but just being out there, you know, having the experience, doing things. I mean, that's exactly how you learn to stay calm. First time like I said, my first experience, right? I didn't know what was going on at first, you know. I just seen something go around the corner, you know, and then, of course, like I said, it just kept coming back for a few days, you know. By that point, I'd done processed that it could be something, and I'm already trying to figure it out, you know.
Yeah.
I never got, you know, like 20 foot close, you know what I mean? Because it knew I was looking, and I knew it knew I was looking. It was like a cat and mouse game with the two of us, but. It's kind of how my experience was, but I wasn't going to chase it. You know what I'm saying? Like right. I'm just trying to get a picture of the darn thing. But I can tell you, you know, my plan might have been to get up and run closer, but my body wasn't going to let me. No. Yeah, like I didn't know I had vibrating boots, but I did. You know,
probably had wet boots after that too.
I mean, it took a minute to run down, but yeah.
And look, this is all natural responses too, and I don't know. All you can do is plan for it, but y'all know what Mike Tyson say: everybody has a plan until they get slapped in the mouth, and that's kind of what this is. And my son and I had. We've got our county is long north to south. I'm not far from Alabama and Tennessee. We have a spot we call the north end, and a one we call the south end is actually where we hunt. And right here, I'm like y'all. I when I'm in the woods, I'm at peace. I feel more comfortable. I grew up hunting, you know, stuff like that. So usually when I get home and try to go to sleep, I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? You know what? Because I already know, but I think it's maybe if I can figure out one piece of the puzzle, it might help Gary a little bit. You know what I mean? And we can share. And you take deer hunting. You can take somebody green. Okay, read this book on deer hunting. That's gonna help you, but I've seen deer do some crazy things reacting to pressure. You know, and these things we do that. We have a plan, but I remember we went in and once we started having some things happen, we I think what happened, we went and wore our welcome out, and I caught a younger one screaming on the audio, but the one in front of us, just out of sight in the woods, was mumbling and grumbling and pacing in a circle and picking up rocks and throwing them, and we could hear the rocks hit the limbs going through the trees and then bounce, and then it was picking up logs, and you can hear me on the video like, "What is that? Hold up." But later we realized it was picking up trees that had fell over, smaller ones, and then you know the difference. You have a bank of sound memories in your head. You know what a oak sounds like on a oak. You know that crack. Well, this was some kind of dead wood on hardwood. It was more of a thump, and then we could hear the end of the log break, and helicopter doing the same thing, hitting limbs and trees and then rolling. Now, during the middle of that, I don't know, maybe some of the people I talked to, I told my son, I said, clear your mind. It's kind of like in Ghostbusters, don't think of nothing, hold on. And I held up my hands. He put his rifle down. Of course, we're not there to hurt anything, but we have hogs and little critters that like to chew on your ankles, so we carry protection. But I said out loud, we're not here to hurt you. We're just curious. Please, we don't want to be hurt either. And everything got quiet, and there was one more sapling snap, and everything stopped. So I asked my son, I said, what are you feeling right now? He said, when you said that out loud, the feeling of the woods changed. Now, since that happened, I go in and I like, we're here. We're going to use the land for a little while because it's family land. We're going to use the land. And when we leave, thanks for sharing it with us. I don't know if that works, but it seems like it's calmed down, and we'll have, a scream or some rock clacking. Or one night it was drizzling a little bit, so we pulled up in the truck in the middle of the field. It's real small. And I was on the driver's side, and my wife and my son was sitting in the back. My wife was on the passenger side, and I'm hard of hearing a little bit. So I was cupping my ears, and when you cup your ears, I started hearing the raindrops falling off of the leaves. You can hear better. And I heard a slight whoop, whoop, not a whoop, not a whoop, a whoop, whoop. And then immediately a response, like, shut up, little man. So we feel like we have a mama, juvenile. I haven't seen him. I do have a picture that we think might be him at night. And then of course there's the big guy, right? But since we had that, and we kind of, I don't know how to put it, let our intentions be known. I carried a 10-pound bag of apples last winter and left it on a tree barrel at the bottom of a tree behind it. It was out of sight. Went back, and that whole bag was missing. It was gone. There was no apple cores. There was no plastic, it was just gone. I don't know what all can do that. So we kind of know, and I could tell you 100 things that's happened there, but when you're in a bad situation like that, you don't know what to do, I mean, you only, and I did something that some friends had told me to do, and it worked that time. Now, that's not going to say it's going to work the next time. So I'll be quiet for a little bit.
Bigfoot researching, in my opinion, is like fishing. Okay? If you line up 10 different fishermen and ask them what they're using, you're going to get 10 different answers. And they're all going to argue amongst themselves as to why they're right and the other people are wrong.
Yep.
My thought is, and this is, like I said, this is just me. I'm the world's biggest research thief. I'm going to listen to all 10 of them and take a little bit out of each one of them says and make it my own.
Or try something they say if it doesn't work. And that's a good point, because Ray and Gary and me sitting here, we only know for a fact what's happened to us, what we've seen. Now, old Joe over here can tell me something. Okay. I can read something. Okay. But I don't pretend to know everything. That's why I'm doing this. I want to figure out things, and you're going to make mistakes. You're going to ask stupid questions sometimes. We always say we take the subject seriously, but we don't take ourselves seriously. There are no egos in our group. You know what I mean? And I hate to see that tear groups apart. But if you go in with an open mind and the wanting to find out the truth, you have to be open. I told my son one time in school, I said, the second you think you know everything about any subject, that's as smart as you're going to get right there. If you're comfortable with that, that's fine. But don't be surprised when other people, go on and do other things and learn more. But you have to have that open mind. And I joked one night, I said, that first Bigfoot back in 85, I said, I don't know whether I saw a Bigfoot because I'm open-minded or I'm open-minded because I saw a Bigfoot. I don't know which came first. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
after you see something that's not supposed to exist, you can either shut down. Some people do. I've had people I know won't talk about it. It affects their lives in a negative way. It changed me. I went from hunting deep woods, walking in with a $2 flashlight, 2 hours, before daylight, to field hunting mostly. If I'm with somebody, I will go in the woods and all that, but I'm always, that head on a swivel. Even Ray, I bet driving down the road now, you're looking at every tree line, every riverbank.
I was doing that before.
Yeah. Yeah. So it changes a person, and the hard part is, people come to you and they want to know about it. But my first thing is I say, if you're serious, I'll talk to you, but I can't have a 50-year conversation in 3 minutes. That just can't, can't do it. So,
yeah. So what you were saying about being open-minded, which came first, right? Some people, they might actually experience that, but they'll talk themselves out of it. So I'd say open-minded came first.
Yeah.
Just be honest with you, because a lot of folks, they do see these things and then they rationalize it away in irrational ways, even, like I do a lot of paranormal investigation as well, and you have to be skeptical of everything, but some things really can't explain, and like I brought a guy with me yesterday. I had some people had reported that they were hearing some noises, sitting out waiting all night to hear noises. I mean, I didn't hear nothing other than some bullfrogs, but I brought a guy with me that doesn't believe in any of that stuff. And a lot of that is, to help balance out what's going on, because I'm going to believe, but I also want to make sure that I'm not, forcing myself into a conclusion the same way that some of those other people who are closed-minded will force themselves out of a conclusion, and so that's kind of important as well.
Yeah, that tells me a lot about you. But because that's rare.
I'll say this if y'all don't mind. In my own personal encounter, going on with what Ray said, okay, I was in a 2003 Jeep Wrangler. Everybody's heard my story 100 times on this show because I keep going back to it because that's my experience. That's what I base 90% of what I do off of. But I'm going to work at the bridge 4:30 in the morning. We was coming off this ridge less than a half mile or about a half mile from my house. And this thing stood up out of the ditch line and stepped out into the road. I had to slam the brakes on to keep from hitting it. So it was at the bumper of a 2003 Jeep Wrangler. So that's right at about 3 feet from where I was sitting at. And as soon as it stepped into the road, the Rolodex in my head started turning. Is that a bear? Could that be somebody? What is this? Could that be a deer? Deer ain't that big. So it just constant started rolling and ticking and things like that. And you're thinking to yourself, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? And to this day, I still ask myself, what is this?
Right.
What am I actually dealing with? Now, I am 100% an animal guy. I believe it's some type of animal. It's either some type of pre-human or pre-human hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's some type of I know Jeff Meldrum, his theory was it was a robust Australopithecine. Now, we had those in Africa about 2.8 million years ago, but they wasn't much bigger than a chimp. I don't see the rapid expansion in height and body mass from something that size to something. You know, we get reports 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet, and then you get up into Alaska, they got 10, 12, 14 feet, which that kind of follows Bergen's rule. You know, the further north you go, the bigger things get. But, you know, with that being said, I want to kind of step into something. You know, if you guys want to get a little deep, we can step into the deep end here. On this property in Spotsylvania County, we witnessed the orbs. Now, orbs are kind of synonymous with Bigfoot. People see them a lot in Bigfoot encounters and things like that. I've tried for years, probably 13, 14 years or more, to explain these glowing balls of light that we saw. Okay. And we saw them every night. Every night. I actually saw one that started on the ground in front of me, right at my feet. And one thing that I have found that has been in common with all of the orb sightings that I've read about is quartz.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The ground where we was at was littered with quartz. Ray mentioned quartz earlier as it giving off a different EMF signal. Now,
that's something to be tested.
Yeah, I'm an old outside guy. I've spent a lot of time outside. We didn't grow up hunting. My dad was a coal miner, so he didn't have time for anything like that.
Right.
Dad was either at work during the summer or working in the garden. And during the fall, Dad was at work, like before we got up, and come home probably after we went to bed. So it was kind of different for us. But I spend a lot of time outside. The being outdoors saved me when I got home from my military service. I was going through a divorce. I just started working at the prison. I had a 1-year-old son that I was raising. Things was bad. So the outdoors saved me. That was my outlet. That was my go-to. So I spent a lot of times. I taught myself how to hunt. I taught myself how to track. Taught myself how to fish and all this other stuff. But, you know, when you're in the outdoors, you want to try to explain things. And that is every human being, you know, that clicks in your mind. I want to know what this is, how it does, how to work it. Now, with these orbs, I've heard people say, oh, well, I touched one and then I had radioactive burns on my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know what to make of that. We had one orb that followed two guys through the woods. If they made a U-turn, it made a U-turn. If they turned right, it turned right. And I can't explain that. Why would it follow them through the woods?
Can I ask you what colors that you've seen?
Red, blue, green, yellow, white. I think that was it. I'm not for sure now. But it was multiple colors. One of my explanations was that it was swamp gas. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Neon, Kentucky. But Neon, Kentucky actually has a lot of free neon in the air. And during an electrical storm, it'll glow sometimes. So I thought swamp gas, because on this property there was lots of beaver activity. Beaver dams, big swamps with beavers in them, lots of beaver activity. So I thought it was swamp gas. So I was keen on that, swamp gas. And maybe it was picking up the electrical charge from this quartz that was making it glow. But if it was swamp gas, it would have all been the same color. Because to make neon different colors, you have to add stuff to it. Iron oxide or aluminum oxide or something like that to make it red, green.
You also got to think it's shaped like an orb, and most gas doesn't come out in bubbles. You know what I'm saying? Nope. So it would look more like a fog or a cloud if it were like that, or like in some of the swamp gas experiences I've had in an actual swamp, you'll get what's like it kind of looks like a cone, and it fire, and then the fire goes down, right? Like it shoots down, you know. But that's because it's getting to the main pocket where it had gotten out and gotten enough oxygen to actually ignite, where it didn't have that before. Swamp gas isn't really a small orb thing, I've not physically seen ball lightning before, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I got an idea what that might look like, in the air, and it would look a little more amorphous and stuff, and then eventually it would get to something that could ground, and then pow, it would ground, right? So the people that touched an orb, yeah, someone that says that they touched an orb and it burned them, and I can believe that, but I don't know about radiation burns,
Yeah.
burns maybe. Now, like piezoelectric is what comes off of the quartz, right? That would be a piezoelectric charge, right? And typically that still comes out. It looks like a static charge, so you don't get a whole lot of like balls out of that either, So I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying from a like a standpoint of just thinking about it, that doesn't seem normal, right? Like, and the fact that it does seem to have it seems to have a intelligent path a lot of times, right?
Yep.
That leads me down a different thought pattern on what they could be. Like I said, it followed a guy one time, and but they seem to know how to get away from you or towards another direction, and the ones that I've experienced in the woods doing cryptid hunts have been different type of orbs than I experienced at like houses when I'm doing paranormal experiences and stuff. Like the orbs seem smaller in houses most of the time and much faster. They're like, doop, doop, and they like go to a corner and they're gone. In the woods, I'm not saying that they're slow. They just seem slower and have more of an intelligent pattern to them. And I don't know what that is, but I mean, I personally don't believe it's quartz or electric or swamp gas, but I don't rule those out. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense in my head how it could become an orb and have an intelligent path. Not all of them seem intelligent paths, but like you do run into the intelligent path, and it doesn't seem like a static electricity, but I still want to get my EMF meters out there and see what I can pick up so that maybe I can make a connection,
One of our buddies had his EMF reader with us, and he took a baseline when we got there, and he said, "Oh my God," he said, "this is double what mine is back home in East Tennessee." And that night, I'll get into the story later, but that night we had some things. We actually caught an orb on thermal, but it started with little red lights in the woods, just like you said. It looked like a little intelligence, and then this one in the viewfinder. I had the camera, and I could see it like 4K clear, like a video game, and it looked like a human cell about the size of a baseball or softball. It had a clear, and you can see it in the video, it had a clear membrane. It had a nucleus, and the center of it was clear, was see-through. Amanda, we were going over the video later, and you could see leaves behind the orb. And it was on black hot, and it was pulsing, but it stayed the same side. It's the heat was changing, dimming and changing. And it's funny you mentioned quartz, because it was around midnight, no lights anywhere, just a fire probably 30 yards away from us. There was 4 of us in the dark. And I said, I saw on TikTok where you can make coal fire with quartz. Let's try it. And there's quartz everywhere. So I just went and picked up some, and I started arcing that. And I thought, oh man, that's cool. And in less than 5 minutes, that's when everything started. So I don't know. And I will tell you this, not every orb I've seen has looked the same, like it was made up of the same material too. So go ahead, Gary.
Yep. No, I think the intelligent path thing, like almost every one of them that we saw had like it was doing something. Okay, I'm not going to jump in here and say I know what it was doing or whatever. They would go.
It wasn't just floating on the wind.
No,
Right.
they would go higher than the trees,
Right.
and they would like bounce off of you. They touch each other and bounce off. And then some of them would come up maybe 3 or 4 feet off the ground and just follow. And this is the thing, okay? If it was like ball lightning, which I've seen ball lightning twice, and this is a set ball.
Mhm.
Ball lightning, when you said it's not set, man, you nailed it. Because as that thing's going, it's pulsating, and you can see like arms coming off of it and everything. And I watched one. It started. It was during a big thunderstorm we had here, and it landed on a power line, and it followed that power line, and I mean it was cooking. You could hear that power line cracking and popping and going on until it got to the pole, and when it got to the pole, it just dissipated.
That's when it reached ground.
Yep. Once it got grounded, it was gone. That was it. These, like I said, they were just moving this path. Okay. Now I can say, oh yeah, that was the wind. Or the one that followed the guy, I could say it was doing that because you guys were generating a current as you was moving. Everybody's seen smoke. You can wave your hand and make smoke do all kinds of crazy stuff. Okay. The wind was not blowing. It blew sometimes, but I mean, it wasn't all the time. But it's really something interesting that, and you know, I try to apply the scientific principles to my investigations. And one of the biggest scientific principles is it repeatable? And when it comes to things like these balls, people see these balls of light regularly with Bigfoot encounters. And people see stick structures regularly in Bigfoot encounters. So it's all relevant. You know, I don't like to discount anything. I can't say that these balls of light are 100% proof of Bigfoot because I never saw Bigfoot create one of these balls of light or Bigfoot holding one in his hand or anything else. And that's like, I can't say that Bigfoot makes these stick structures because I've never seen Bigfoot. I've never seen a video of Bigfoot making them or anything. But now something's making them, and it's not people.
Well,
and it's a fascinating thing, but it's one of them that the more you try to question it, the more questions you have.
When you look at, other stories and stuff, especially like with Native Americans or old Appalachian stories, they talk about there being other things than just Bigfoot out in the woods, right?
Yep.
And the areas that the Bigfoot are in, are typically less inhabited or more remote than other places, and that leaves room for other things as well. And I'm not saying, like you had a guest the one day that thought that the orbs might be a psychic thing that Bigfoot's doing to help distract you, and I can't discount that because I don't know, but it could be something else entirely that just happens to like the same areas that Bigfoot does, and that's why you run into them at Bigfoot. And that's why I said I really want to get out there and get the EMF meters, with all the, ones from different parts of the spectrum, so I can figure out kind of where things are going with the orbs. And I haven't had them mess with my EMF meter on a lot of paranormal investigations. Like the orbs don't seem to affect the meter, so I don't know that they will, in the woods, but they might, and it's worth a shot to me. But I don't discount it being something different than Bigfoot that just likes the same environments,
Yeah.
Like there's gun people and anti-gun people, and we both live in the same state. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same, two different.
I'll say this: we all live in Native American environment. Okay. The Cherokee were very prevalent in Tennessee. Not so much here where I live at, but this was more like a hunting ground for both the Shawnee Indians and the Cherokee Indians because of their proximity. And I've said it on the show a billion times. I'm part Native American. I'm a quarter Shawnee and Cherokee on my dad's side. I'm a quarter Cherokee on my mother's side. Thanks for the U.S. government, I'll never be half because of governmental math, which also works through the Veterans Administration, if anybody's curious. But there are so many, stories and things that the natives have that actually play out and true with these Bigfoot encounters. The Cherokee Indians spoke of two different kinds of Bigfoot that lived with them. One of them was the Sukaloo, which translates out to be slope-eyed or slant-eyed giants. They lived with the Cherokee. They learned to speak some Cherokee. They, took care. They brought food and wood and things like that to the Cherokee and stuff like that. The other was the Nunuywe, and there was one that's pretty famous, and it actually had a name, and I want to say Genesqua, but it's been a while since I've read about it. But Genesqua, the Nunuywe, they hunted the Cherokee, and they ate their liver and their brains, which is the two most nutrient-rich and fatty-rich organs in your body, which is also the same thing that predators go for, most nutrient-rich and most fatty. So that made a lot of sense. And then, you kind of hear the spiritual side with a lot of native stuff. Now, like I said, I'm an animal guy. The spiritual side is that's kind of a place I don't want to go. Me and Ray talked about this before you come on. A lot of native culture, I got my hair braided tonight. I had my wife braid my hair because it's easier to take care of. But if a native comes up on, has a spirit encounter, or comes up on a dead body or something like that, and the old story says, unbraid your hair immediately, because that spirit can latch on into the braids of your hair and you can take it with you. So that's something I don't want to fool with. But, the native stories are there. We've got the rock art of the hairy man. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what I'm talking about. Kathy Strain, I think, puts the picture up quite a bit. That's as much as 10,000 years old. So we're looking at something that's been here at least that long. Mm-hmm. And it's the thing that gets me is, how can all of these natives see it? And now nobody wants to recognize it.
Somewhere in the early 1900s, it became taboo to talk about this stuff. If you look back at old newspaper clippings from the 1800s, travel logs, I guess you would say, from people that were exploring, Davy Crockett, Daniel Boone, people that have a place in history that you recognize their names, but somewhere, sometime, it became, don't talk about it. And we talk about, the supernatural. A lot of the supernatural is just natural. You know what I mean? I saw a documentary years ago, and I was interested in the orb lights because I had seen something when I was around 18. If y'all look up the Chapel Hill light, Chapel Hill, Tennessee, I actually saw that one time. I won't get into that, but it gave me a lot of questions. But these two scientists, they were out west somewhere, and there was these orbs, and they're like, there's no way that could be real. So they went to the area, and the first night they saw them, and they're like, how can this happen? So they tested the ground where they were at. They tested the water in the river, and they tested the other ridge. There was lithium in the ground. There was sulfur in the water, and then there was something else on the other side. So it was just a big battery, and it caused these lights, and they explained it away. But we keep asking questions, and then you'll have somebody say, well, it's this, and they'll tell you, and it sounds so out there, but a lot of these areas have the same thing, the quartz, a waterfall, you know, and all this. So y'all talked about misidentification. If I see 5 orbs and I just assume they're orbs, but this one may be for some other reason, and this may be because what's in the ground and the water and the waterfall. You know, I don't know how to discern between that. But
I do a little bit of a different type of discernment with the way I think on things. Like you said, that there's lithium and there's, you know, quartz, there's all this stuff, and it made a big battery, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I think about, you know, big batteries making orbs, I look around at all these big batteries that I can find anywhere else and go, do I ever see orbs around big batteries? No. Right? So like I don't discount completely the battery theory, but I don't subscribe to the battery theory because I don't see orbs around batteries.
I think there's multiple correct answers.
Yeah,
we just
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I watched a guy on YouTube the other day that hooked up 6 lemons, and he put welding leads on those 6 lemons that he had wired together and struck an arc with lemons. I'd have never thought that.
Well,
so I think there is the possibility that the battery theory.
Yeah, I've seen arcs.
Yeah,
I've seen arcs with batteries.
Yeah.
But I've not seen orbs with batteries.
And another thing that we make a mistake is we assume, well, I don't, but most of people on the planet right now assume we're smarter than people who lived 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And you know, when I saw the documentary and they found a battery, I think it was in one of the pyramids. It was it probably had copper, and they said it ran off orange juice was the acid, you know. So but it's great to ask questions. We may not ever get the answers, but I'm a simple guy. I'm not out here asking questions because they just pop in my head. I see things and I'm like, wait a minute. How can that be possible? I just saw this and there's nothing around. What caused that? You know, so it boggles your mind. We try to get answers, and the real answer may be that there can be multiple correct answers because this is different than that one in this area and so forth. And I've heard people talk about orbs before I actually, you know, saw one, because I really didn't associate that first one with being an orb because it was the size of a beach ball. And I do know this: when it came out of the woods, it was at night. We were right up on close to the tracks. We didn't get on them. I saw something to my right. I'm on the passenger side of the truck, and I look over and think about, I don't know if I can paint this picture, this mental picture. These trees, there was a lot of tall trees. When this thing came out, it was a few feet off the ground. And think about nighttime. Now you've got this round orb shaped like a beach ball. The light emanating from it was going in every direction. So every 2 inches it moved, the shadows were dancing, right? They were, you know, as it's moving, those shadows, they look like they were whipping and moving. And then it comes up, it follows the contour of the train tracks. And when it got between the 2 tracks, you ever seen a magnet, you know, something magnetized, it'll shake and stabilize? It did that shimmy, and then it stabilized and it got real still the same distance off the ground. And when it stabilized, it slowly started coming down those tracks to us, just as smooth as you could ask for. But when it left, it looked like some force ripped it off the tracks, right? It ain't like it, like, oh, it's time to go, let's leave. It looked like something pulled it off the tracks and it went back down in the woods. Same visuals with the trees and the shadows. That was otherworldly to see that. Didn't have a video camera back then, of course. Man,
if that were something like ball lightning, that would have grounded out at the tracks somewhere. Never would have left.
And see, I'm gonna say this too. that is entirely different than the orbs that I witnessed. These orbs were light, okay? They were the size of a softball, something like this, up to about the size of a basketball, so something like this, okay? They were glowing, but they did not emit light.
Right.
So there was no, you know how you was talking about the light was moving, things like that, and you could see the shadows dancing. It was just a pinpoint in the darkness. There was nothing. You couldn't see under it. You couldn't see over it.
It was contained.
Yes, and it was all in that ball.
Yep.
Strangest thing I've ever seen. I've got something I'm going to bring up here that kind of brought up a point. This is from a friend of mine, Andy Kilburn. Love you, Andy.
Yeah,
but Andy
I agree with
it. We are dumber now than we've been in the past. The new generation, very new. Okay, now I'm going to say this. Anybody that's got a youngin' right now, you say that to your youngin', you all are soft, you don't do nothing. I call this new generation the push button generation.
Yes.
They pick that phone up, they push a button, boom, they got instant information. Okay, we had to read, we had to find it in an encyclopedia, go to the library.
Or just figure it out with your imagination.
Yep. Now, talking about the pyramids and things. The most common example of what you're talking about, they call it the Baghdad battery. And it was run from citrus, which is electrical, believe it or not. And they think that the Egyptians actually had artificial light that they ran from these big batteries. They had these glass cones and things like that were like light bulbs. Now, can I go out and say, yes, that's what they were doing? No, because I wasn't there. I don't know what they was doing. And that right there is the point. You know, when you think about humans now, okay, we are dependent. Okay. Roy, Ray, me, everybody, we're dependent. If you want something to eat, you get up off your tail and you go to the refrigerator and open it up. I do a lot of camping. I have a really nice camper that I camp in. I volunteer with the Army Corps of Engineers, and I get to camp on their campgrounds. So my refrigerator went out last year, and it was in October, and it went out, and we were there until November. So I was without a refrigerator. Okay. That is miserable. And I'm thinking to myself, my grandparents they'd have shot through that just like that. That would have been a problem for them. They'd have put stuff in the creek. They'd have done this. They'd have done that. That's my afterthoughts. Now, if I'd have been thinking, I could have done some of the same stuff, but I wasn't because I was dependent. That is what cripples a lot of us. And I'm going to say this too, in Bigfoot research, I think our reliance on technology kind of hinders some of our research. I don't have them handy right here because I was using them to scout for some raccoons the other night. But anyway, I got my first pair of night vision binoculars, night vision goggles. Wonderful outside like that. But I think that IR light, I think Sasquatch can see it. I think that's why you don't have game camera photos of them.
Well, that's the thing. My thing is, I'm like, y'all, if I can find it in nature, then it's on the table for Bigfoot. So if coyotes can see that IR, you know, I've seen eye shine that was reflective, and I've seen eye shine that, which, you know, if the moon's out, it may not take much, you know, but I've seen times where it shouldn't be there. And people ask me questions all the time. My favorite answer, or the truthful answer, is I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out. So
no expert.
No,
that's my thing. Okay. Yep. If you come on a podcast and you say, I'm a Sasquatch expert, more than likely I'm going to move on to a different show.
Yeah.
Because you can't be an expert. Okay. No. And I know, Ray, you do a lot of paranormal research, and I'm going to throw this out there too. Okay. By definition, Sasquatch is paranormal because it is outside of the realm of normal science.
Yep.
Okay. And A lot of people get hung up on titles, paranormal, supernatural, this and that, and this and that. Okay, you got to take those titles and get rid of them because we don't exactly know what we're dealing with. Now, like I said, I'm an animal guy, but I'm willing to sit and listen to anybody's encounter about what they saw because that is their encounter. That's what they saw. That is their interpretation of it. And that's what they encountered while they were having the sighting. So if you say you saw Bigfoot phase out, okay, I'm gonna listen to what you said because that's your encounter. Now in my head, I'm thinking, okay, phased out. More than likely, what's happened is you lost focus just for a second, and the natural camouflage of this animal is so good that it either laid down or did what I prefer to call the Homer Simpson. Everybody watches The Simpsons. Homer slides back into that bush and disappears. It's the same thing. Now, that's what I think when I hear their story to start with. So that's when I want to go look and see what type of environment it happened in to see if there is enough cover for it to drop down and disappear, step back into the wood line and disappear, or whatever. Now, some researchers, on the other hand, as soon as they hear, it phased out, the first thing they think is, you're a nut and I'm gone. You can't do that. Any information, even if it is not in your wheelhouse, if it's not something that you're caught up in or believe in, you have to listen to it because there is truth in that. No matter how off it may sound, there's truth in it.
I think Bigfoot can phase just a little bit too, and I'm not sure if it's all of them or just some of them, but it's kind of partially my experience,
Mm-hmm.
And it could be that they're two different creatures altogether. Like I know there's a classification of a cryptid called the Glimmer cryptid, that is that same thing. And I don't know how to explain how it would work in the natural world, but that doesn't mean it doesn't work. Took a long time for people even knew platypuses that existed, and even longer before they knew that they could shock you. You know what I mean? So, and then how that worked as well. So, I'm not going to discount that it does work. I just can't explain how it does. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Greg called me. Greg called me one morning, and something tried to open his door at his man cave, which he's in the thick of it, and he's law enforcement, and fire department and all this stuff. He's just a normal guy like us. He's very smart. He said about 2:30 something tried to open my storm door. He didn't hear any. He was hurt for a while, so he's got a handicap ramp. And I said, did it walk up the ramp? He said, no, because if I walk up there, he's gonna hear me. And so anyway, long story short, I went down there, drove an hour and a half, and started looking around, and I found a hair right where, if it was something, right about where the top of the thigh would be, where it reached over and pulled that door handle. Y'all, I've never seen anything like it. It was, the first inch was coal black.
Mm-hmm.
The next 2 or 3 inches was clear like fiber optic. It didn't have a transition. It stopped. It stopped and started black to clear fiber optic looking. Of course, I sent it to Doug Highcheck, my buddy, and they're supposed to be looking at it. But so I started doing a little research and asking questions, going Googling this or that. And, what would an animal, if it had a hair like this, what benefits would it be? Would it give that animal? It said in low light conditions, it would help the outline fade into the background.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of ambient light, like moonlight, porch light, or whatever, would hit that shaft and disperse in multiple directions and cause it to look blurry And I'm like, oh crap. So if that's the case, if that's what it turns out to be, which it's a really good spot to collect stuff, and I have shown it to people. I have told, and like, I've never seen a hair like that. But let's say if for giggles, if one is standing just out of the light, just a little bit, and you have porch light shining on its back, you know, a dog, its hackles rise or whatever. If you come out and spook it, or it gets under a stressful situation and those hairs on it rise, it would look like a shimmer.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying that. Don't say Roger said that's exactly what it is. I'm just throwing that out there because that's what we're looking at right now.
It makes a lot of sense.
So
Well, I'm gonna throw this out there too, especially dealing with a white Sasquatch.
mhm,
Polar bears are white,
absolutely. They're
but
black
their hair is translucent,
Yes, sir.
so it actually refracts the light. That's why they appear white. That's why sometimes you see what they call blue bears. Anybody ever heard of that other than me? Blue bears are on like the really old icebergs that are kind of blue looking, so they'll look blue. So that could be a possibility that the way the light was hitting it and it being white. How close was that to where you saw the Fresno Walker, which that's a white one also?
The white one, I was in my stand, and it's about 40 yards to the tree line where my stand was at. So it would have been maybe 10 yards, some it maybe 50 yards or so. You know,
how close was it to where you saw the shimmer?
Maybe 20 yards, just outside of the area of the porch light I was at, right? Because when I seen it at about, it was about 20 yards for the shimmer. I'm actually kind of hiding underneath my neighbor's trailer, right? And all I've got is that one light on, and then of course I had my CCTV camera, because I mean back then you couldn't get Wi-Fi enabled or any of that cameras, you know. So I'm under the neighbor's trailer really, and I'm looking out towards where it had been, you know, going just outside of the view of my camera, you know. And of course I'd been building these little LEDs that I was, you know, using my solder and some watch batteries and stuff, and then putting like a little cone in there so it would kind of act like a flashlight. It would project more light so my camera could see further, you know, and then it would just, it seemed like it was moving further out as I would do that, you know. So I hadn't built those yet when I got that close to seeing it. And like it noticed me noticing it, right? That's when it went up in the tree, you know, and was just bounded off. It was gone, you know. That particular instance, I was about 20 yards, low light conditions, you know, because I never, like, it never came by in the daylight when it was, you know, messing around in my area, you know. It was always nighttime that I run into it.
Do you have a garden?
At the time I did. I don't now.
Since you don't have a garden, has the sightings been less?
Oh, I mean, it was like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I'd never seen him again here. So
that's just, I mean, you know, I'm full of questions, and so I had somebody ask me one time.
The garden was right at my camera, right? I caught so many deer coming over there because, like, what I did is I'd made a hay bale garden. This thing, like, I would have caught it on camera if it went to the garden.
Okay.
Right? But it never did. The deers did. They destroyed it at like week 1, but that's a whole other story, you know.
Let me ask you one other question, and I'll so if your squash got too big, or cucumbers got too big, or something was a bite was taken out of tomato or something, did you have a spot where you threw it away from the garden?
It never got a chance to grow up.
Okay.
Once I got the hay bales made up good, and I got everything planted, their stuff got maybe this big, and the deers destroyed it.
Okay, all right.
I never got a chance to get that garden going.
I know where you're going, Roger, and I'll tell you why. Me and my son and my father, we go about every year to a place in West Virginia to a hunting preserve, and we hunt for wild hogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think I would like it when we first went there because it's a high fence. You know, this guy has lots of exotics and things like that there, but there's hogs in there. Now, when you're hunting those hogs, they're still hogs. You're hunting hogs because you're
Yeah.
kicking brush piles and everything else to get them to run out just like you would anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But we go up there, we have a good time, and it's great to see all that stuff. They always talk to me because, you know, I'm the Bigfoot guy that comes up there hunting. So they're tore up over it. Well, they actually had a prolonged scream up there when they was releasing some animals one night. And they do their processing and things there on site. They have a butcher house and everything. So they take all of their waste to one place and dump it. That's where I'd like to go.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't got permission to go up there, but I'd love to go up and sit and watch that waste pile.
Mm-hmm.
To
see what's coming to it. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that would make a lot of sense to me that once they've started this butcher house and they're taking all this entrails and scrap meat and things like that, and some people don't want the animal, they just want the head.
Right.
For mounting. So that whole animal gets taken out to the scrap pile.
And that's an easy meal. And we know that most things will take advantage of an easy meal. I mean, y'all, I know y'all have heard of people, oh, it was going through the dumpster, or it was, you know, coming around behind the Burger King at night and coming up out of the ravine. And so.
Yeah, like my garden didn't make it, but I'll tell you what did happen. Right where I found the cat, right? Several nights, like once I would go back in the house, you know, for morning time, right? Because I got to rest sometime too, right? When I would come back out, there would be part of a goat right in that same spot left for me, like it was a present, right? Like there'd be a leg one night, another night when I come back outside, there's a whole goat head with none of the skin and stuff on it, and the spinal column was still attached. There wasn't no meat on it, right? Just laying there. Or, you know, there'd be like part of a rib cage the next day. You know, it's like it was like leaving a present. Like, here's something for you too, right? Just that first night, it was my cat. And then mostly, because after that, we kept pets in the house. But like I said, I got the deer on camera eating my garden. But the guy, I mean, he's just across the holler here, had several goats, but he went down to like one before that week was over. And it was leaving the goat parts in my yard. And it all had a very similar MO to you know, it couldn't have been like, there weren't like regular chew marks like coyotes would leave, you know, like it was, it's like it was like sliced, you know.
I've been told by, you know, seasoned researcher that with, let's say an animal, I won't name an animal, people will freak out, but say a family pet or something, that he's seen where that slice confused him, but they figured out, they think that it was using a thumbnail, and something you said, Gary, earlier, they love the internal organs, it's supposedly. So y'all
you hear
know
me talking about it turning my cat inside out, you know?
Right. And look,
just being the fur and meat left.
And so y'all know D.A. Roberts and Robbie Raines? They do the show. They're out in Missouri. But anyway, we had them as a guest one night. And then after the show, we started sharing pictures and videos and stuff. And they had just got a picture. Robbie's a current police officer in South Carolina, and DA, I think, is retired in Missouri. And they're like, "Hey, Roger, we got some stuff to show you." I'm like, "Okay." And so Amanda was there also, and they said, "Are you squeamish?" I said, "No, not particular, but they warned me." The story was, there's guys around hunting, had a beagle. They had a few beagle hounds, and one of them started after something and got out of sight. And they were calling for it, and then all of a sudden, y'all know that sound when something's meets its end quickly, right? They heard that, and they're like, "Oh crap!" You know, they're thinking mountain lion, anything, just so they go over there. They took a picture within 10 minutes and they sent it to DA, and DA said, "Tell me what you see here." And I'm leaned in looking at it. I blow it up and I'm like, "Oh my God." There was a bite. It looked like something took it by the backbone, behind the head and the butt, and the soft tissue below the rib cage bit it. It looked like a shark bite. It was probably, I don't know, I don't know. Let's just say 9-10 inches or whatever. Maybe bigger, maybe smaller. But the one thing that I focused on, there was no blood, but if something, kicks out pretty quick, there's not going to the heart stops and everything. There's not going to be much blood. All the internal organs were missing just below the diaphragm, but the teeth marks, y'all, were about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. Individual teeth in an arc, just like ours. And I'm getting goosebumps now. And along with what was told happened and this picture, I just sat back in my seat and I was like, my God, that was terrible. And the dog was, it stiffened up, and they were talking about a traumatic injury and all that. But anyway, that's one of the best parts about this is some of the side conversations. I've got audio and video and pictures and stuff people show you on your phone, on their phones and stuff when you have meet and greets, and and they don't, and look, don't get mad at them, because you think about this right now, Ray, if you got a video of a Bigfoot family eating your cat, now it's perfect video, it's proof. What do you do with it? So as soon as you put it out there, everybody's going to come to Ray's house. And if those Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, get riled up, guess they leave, and guess who's still sitting there at the house? You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of stuff being held back because of that reason. One, either they want to protect them. Two, they don't want the attention, and they're not these people. You can check on them. They're not out here talking about Bigfoot. They're like, hey, I need some help. Y'all get that. Hey, I need some help. I just need to talk to somebody. You want to be on the show? Oh, no. I love that, because they're not seeking attention. We're here talking about the truth, trying to figure out other truths. And I think people would be shocked at some of the evidence that's been withheld. And another thing, I don't know if I'm gonna tell this or not. I know a guy that sent, the hand came from Alaska, sent to him dry ice. He's a well-known researcher, done a lot of things for the community, and he kept some of the blood, but he knew the guy that sent it to him. He was a bear, what do you call them when they take people hunting, and a guide. And he's had several encounters and stuff. But anyway, so this hand, immediately when it come in, this guy calls the local police and said, I need y'all to come down here. This looks so human. It's big, but I need to confirm it's not human. They come in over there and they're like, no, that's not human. We ain't touching it. We don't care what you do with it. They said, all right, I just wanted to, do that. Sends it into a DNA study that everybody knows about, and it basically disappears. Don't have a good answer. Call up. They give stupid excuses. So there you go again. If you do get some evidence, where do you send it? Who can you trust? Because it's happened in the past. I was at the very first Bigfoot conference I ever went to was in Gatlinburg, and in 23. And they were talking about doing this study, and I think Darby Orcutt was up there and talking about the university and all this stuff. And man, they grilled him. People was raising their hands like, how can you ensure us that what we send you is not going to be confiscated because it's happened in the past. So
Mhm.
you don't know who to trust. You don't know how to, you've got your circle of friends you can trust, but that's a real, conundrum, I would think. Like, okay, I've got this. What do I do with it? Do I want them to know? Now, if it's off in, 100 miles away in a national forest or something, that's different. But these people that are catching these pictures and videos and whatever, scat, hair, whatever, they're usually doing it on their farm or, around their home. Not many people want to, strike that match and start that fire. I have quite a few people that have told me that. And I've got one friend, he's not a researcher. He just lives in an area where he has to deal with this. We found tracks. Oh man, a smell hit us one time. It smelled like, y'all know about electricity. So the smell was not like burning rubber or plastic, but you know how when it gets hot, like it's about to catch fire,
Mhm.
hit me and my son. I checked the wind right quick, and then we have found tracks of assuming a female and a small one, because the big tracks came out and stopped, and there weren't any tracks. And it's real sandy, silty down river. The river was down, and all of a sudden these two tracks appear, like something like a mama set down a baby, and the compression and the material, it wasn't a heel to toe step or anything like that. It was straight down compression. The ridge was all the way around exactly the same. And then it takes off and walks to the edge of the water, puts the right foot on the ball of the foot on a rock, and it's got its feet like this. And if you walk in this area, you know why? Because if you straighten them up or walk this way, you're in the water, because it's kind of a slope. And I'm looking at
Mhm.
this, so we know they're possibly a mama and a little one, and and others we've heard stuff, and uh, but when this was 2 years later, and when that smell hit us, I've never smelt anything like that. And y'all, the way y'all do, my son smelled it. He's my animal guy, my sound guy. He's 28 years old, and he's always been interested in sounds and what they eat and everything. So he said, I've never smelt that before. So the first thing we did, we started checking the water. It was low. We were making sure there wasn't any old leaves, any funk, I'm like, this water's running. I wouldn't be scared to drink this. And then I was like, I don't know what we do. Just stay calm and listen. Within a minute, something was on you go up about 150 yards, and the bend was around to the left, and something started screaming raspy. It sounded small-ish. We couldn't see it, and it made its way across that river just out of our sight. And my son said, "That's raspy like a dog, but that's not a dog cadence. I don't know what that is." And when he says, "I don't know what that is," something's going on. After it was all over, I called Kumbo up on the way home. I said, "Hey, I got to ask you some questions. We had this happen, this happened, this was what the smell was, and whatever." And what we figured out possibly could have happened, because the gorillas and stuff will emit a scent. It's kind of the same thing. So possibly
Mhm.
what happened was we showed up out of the blue. Maybe the little one was separated from the mama. The mama had a reaction, stress reaction, hit us, stopped us in our tracks, and here we're looking around like, what is that? And after this thing got to the other bank, whatever it was, the smell, just because the wind was light breezy, the wind just carried it, and it just dissipated. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Mhm.
I can't tell you what that was, but talking to him on the way home, and him telling us stuff that's happened to them, and maybe that's what happened. I don't know. But going back to 2 years earlier, about a year or two earlier, and we found definite tracks of a large Bigfoot, and then the small tracks. that's piecing things together. That don't mean that's what happened, but what else could it have been? When you smell a gorilla in the Alabama woods, because I looked it up, like, have anybody ever reported this smell? And there's like all over the place the same description of that smell. So anyway, but it boggles the mind, even when you're there and you kind of know what's going on. Even though I know they exist, I still don't want to believe it right then, right? I want to go through the steps of ruling everything out. So anyway, and that's why I don't. Now, if I see one, I'm gonna say, Ray, I saw one. It was this color. The muscles looked like it was this big. I saw the side of the face. I'm gonna tell you I saw it. If I don't see it, I'm not gonna say, hey, a Bigfoot broke that tree over there and then made this over here, because I didn't see it. I don't know what did it, but I have seen stuff I can't explain.
That brings up a couple things that I want to hit on real quick. With Ray's cat incident and you talking about the thumbnail, Mick asked a question earlier and I forgot to put it up, and that's my fault, Mick. I just remembered it and I seen it. Mick wanted to know, how could something make that cut and skin something like that without a knife? Okay, when it comes to a smaller animal, a cat, a squirrel, a rabbit, or something like that, the hide's really thin.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotta run, Gary.
Oh, Ray,
I gotta run.
Appreciate
I'll see you later, buddy.
Good to meet you, Ray.
Take care of yourself,
Good to meet
brother.
you.
You too. So something like that, it would be easy to tear the skin and peel it back. That wouldn't be a problem. Now, you mentioned you've heard they use a thumbnail.
Possibly.
I read an old Shawnee Indian report about a native Shawnee that was kind of taken prisoner by these Bigfoot. And it was a female Bigfoot. And she used her thumbnail to split the stomachs on deer.
Oh my God, that's what I was told. And they go, well, anyway, let me tell you this too. So the size of these things, everything they do, if you hear footsteps, it's big. If you hear a knock, it's big. I don't know whether that's mouth pops. I've heard resonance before, like in sinus cavity. So I think that one particular, that time it might've been coming from here. I have heard rock clacks, and I've heard definitely wood on wood, but it's hard to get that sound. But
have you ever seen a gorilla slap its chest? You ever heard that?
Yeah, yes, my son had that happen on the south end, and he was about to take a deer he was laying on the ground, and this area we've had several things happen, and he said it sounded like he said it was massive, and the deer froze.
When a gorilla pops its chest, they'll cup their hands. And instead of having just this big muscle on muscle thumping noise, it's a really sharp popping noise.
Yep.
And that is a really unnerving thing to hear.
Yep. Look, I'm like you. I can't rule out anything. I believe from experience, I believe that it's multiple different things. You know what I mean? Maybe they use what they have at their disposal at that second. I don't think Bigfoot's carrying around a Louisville Slugger at all. People joke about that. And I've also tried to pick up, how hard it is to find a piece of wood that will make a good sound on a tree with bark on it.
Yep.
It's almost impossible. I mean, now I've seen people that have the knockers and stuff. Yeah, that's going to work, but find something out there. It's tough. I've even thought about, we were throwing stuff against the wall one night. These slaps, pops. Why, if something's that intelligent and that big, why would it, if I was them, not slap a tree to see if it was hollow? There might be raccoons or squirrels inside. You know what I'm saying? It's just like thumping a watermelon to me. I'm not saying that happens, but it could be a possibility, because some people have told me from out west that bears will push trees down and dig out food, whether
Yep.
it's, grubs or, insects, or if there's a raccoon in there or whatever, they'll go after it. So I don't know, man. It just leads to more questions. I will tell you.
The vocalizations is something that I find really interesting too. And you mentioned it earlier where your son said it sounded like a dog, but it wasn't a dog.
Right.
Now, I don't know, have you ever heard of Monongahela?
Not familiar with that.
He's done a lot of sound studies, and I've
Okay.
watched a lot of his YouTube stuff. And don't ask me how to spell it right now because I can't.
I was thinking about writing it down. I'm like, I might get a little bit of it down there. I'll write it down.
I can tell you what it means. Monongahela means the sliding banks, which is based off of a river, and it's an Indian word, Monongahela. But there's a forest in West Virginia called the Monongahela National Forest. But anyway, he's done a lot of study on it, and his thoughts are that when you're hearing a Bigfoot vocalization, it starts off with the ooh sound. And canines and just about everything can make the ooh sound. But it ends with an A sound, the ah. And canines cannot make the ah sound.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a vocalization once, we recorded it, and 20 seconds, maybe longer, vocalization. Okay, that's a lot of air.
Mm-hmm.
That long, that loud.
That powerful, yeah.
Yeah. And I just, there's not a dog out there that's capable of doing that. There's not a person out there that's capable of doing that.
The audio, Gary, the audio is some of the best evidence because you can actually put that on a spectrogram and measure. It can tell you what it's not. You know what I'm saying? So if you're we've been lucky enough to catch some, and I learned a lot about it. I had David Ellis. He took one of mine I caught in Talladega National Forest. It actually was 3 of them. And the first one popped off about 100 yards away, just over the little rise off in the woods. We were down here on the other side. I knew immediately, because I've heard it before, I knew immediately what it was, but I wasn't expecting the other 2. And like I said, it's never the same. And when the second one pops off, you can hear me get kind of nervous. And I told my wife, she had the dog on a leash. I said, get up here now, follow me. Because this one was only 40 yards from cutting us off from the truck. That's when I got nervous. The third one was over on another ridge that was in a triangle almost. Mm-hmm. But when David got all the background noise out of it, the second one had a dual tone, and you can see it on the readout. That's hard to do, to have 2 different lines on a call. I knew it sounded a little different, live, but I didn't. I was so thankful for him for doing that. And y'all that'll watch this, you hear this all the time, but I don't care what you recorded on, it's never going to do it justice what the person standing there heard live. It's
and the dual tone thing is something that I've heard quite a bit, and it's not out of the realm of human capability, because we do have humans that can do a dual vocal sound,
right?
But they're trained. The throat singers, the Asian throat singers, they have to train themselves to be able to do that.
And it won't be as high up in the numbers, or I'm confused. Sometimes I get confused because sometimes it's a lower range because they hit notes, allegedly. That's all we can say. Because now that's another thing. If I saw one, scream, I say, oh, this is a Bigfoot scream. You can't say that. You can just, okay, let's put it on here. What's the number say? Well, it's not this. We can't tell you what it is. But that's normal because you don't have anything to go by. But yeah, I was going to but before I get off here, I was talking about Greg, talking about getting into an animal. Greg had was with his dad years ago, and he's got this huge field. I've been all over the place with him, and he took a doe, and his daddy was away, so he went over there and he kicked the doe, looked at it. It's it's not breathing, it's not moving. So he walks back across this cornfield that's been cut over to his truck, and I believe he goes and gets his dad, and he said, "Did you get one?" He said, "Yeah, I got a doe." He said, "Okay, good." So they go easing back over there, and he pulls up to the spot, which is right up next to the woods, which is the start of Bankhead on that side, and then there's a river. And he's like, "Where did she go?" He's like, "I thought you said you." He said, "I did. I went up and made sure." Um, and he went out and he looked around. There was a little bit of blood and everything, and he wasn't thinking Bigfoot because this was early on, right? He didn't know about Bigfoot at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, "Well, ain't this a mess?" So they get in the truck defeated and go back, and he's like, well, there's no way she got up. I wonder if there's somebody here stole my deer, which there's 400 or 500 acres that was theirs. Nobody's supposed to be on, but still that's a possibility. He said he went back the next day to go hunting, and when it got daylight, he looked over. He has 4 different shooting blinds across this huge field. He said he looked over and he saw brown and white, and he got down and went over there. Something had taken that doe, the same doe, and ripped her in half almost, and threw that part back out into the field, because then he starts looking for human tracks and all this. He said, Greg's an outdoors guy. And he's like me, he loves knives and all this stuff. He's of course he's law enforcement. He said there were no cut marks. It looked like it had been ripped. And you know how hard it'd be to rip a deer hide. Looked like the hide was ripped. The fibers in the muscle had, it ripped apart, and it was thrown from the edge of the woods about 20 or 30 feet out into the field, back in the field. And that's when he started thinking, like, what in the world would do this? Because he'd heard some gibberish and it sounded like kids laughing. He'd seen some of the little saplings move, and he'd heard a couple vocalizations, but he didn't know anything about Bigfoot. He's not, that's when he started looking into it. Then he had other things happen, but the raw power that it would take. And think about this. I've had, if y'all have the locust trees up there with the thorns about 3 or 4 inches long.
Yep.
If you got one that big around, do you know a human on this earth that would reach into all those thorns and snap it? It's hard to cut with a saw. We have those on the south end because it's kind of rocky. And every year there's a new one on the same ridge, the ridge that my son's tree stand is on. And it's almost like, yeah, he's still here. And then we found a new one last year. We went in scouting, and we found another one, but it was, so these were broken like this. It was a Y, and they were broken down like that. There was no scuff marks from a tractor. Every thorn was intact. So something had to reach in through there and break it. And we've seen them different heights. There was a new one. There was one limb. It was different. It was broken and pointed down the ridge to the field. It's big ridge off that goes down. And I said, "What's down there?" He said, "Oh, there's a new guy got permission to hunt here I told you about. He put his tree stand down at the end of this ridge in that field." And I'm like, this is pointing right to it then, right? He said, "Yes." So I don't know what it means, but it almost makes you think that, we know there's at least one there, and I don't think he's there all the time. It's almost like a marker, like, hey, danger's this way. Hey, this one's still here past this point. Be careful. I don't know, Gary. I mean, I don't know anything for sure, but it's awful strange.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the locust. A lot of times around here, you'll hear people call them the Kentucky coffee tree because those big beans that grow on it, which are edible.
They are.
So that might be a food resource.
Yeah, I heard y'all talking about.
You can grind the beans up after they dry, and it'll make a kind of a coffee.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'll have to check into that because there's plenty of them.
There's 3 or 4 different kinds of them: honey locust, yellow locust, black locust. Really super dense. It's more dense than oak. It's a really super dense wood. It's really hard, especially after it's dried out. I mean, it is like a lot of times we cut them for fence posts. They make a wonderful fence post.
And they'll be here when me and you are gone.
Yep.
So think about this also. Do you know the difference? You know, when we were kids, we would climb up these trees and ride them over, and depending on what kind of tree it was, it was soft and it would bend, or you'd have to go way up on a hardwood.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing I've noticed. Some of these tree breaks are hardwoods, anywhere from this big around to about that big around.
Mm-hmm.
But they are high pressure pinpoint breaks. They're not bends. Some of these trees, if you try to break them and pull them down, the roots might come up. You know what I'm saying? There's no damage there, but it's almost like something takes its hand and is strong enough. We're talking about the strength to snap this thing. And when you have a snap like that and it's high pressure, the splinters will shoot out the back. From the bottom and the back, they'll be like that right there. It's almost like it exploded from the pressure. That's what I started noticing, and I told my son, because we had a rock thrown at us in 2020. It was about that big around, like a double fist, and we had found a break. We were looking at it, and I wasn't into this again. I tried to put all that in my past. And I'm looking at this break, and I was, is that what they're talking about? There's no reason for this to be here. And then my phone is in my shirt pocket. We're scouting. We're not really hunting, but we're being quiet. We're not talking. We're doing what I call my daddy's old hunting sign language. It's not real sign language. It's just, we know what it is. And so right as I step up the hill, I take one step up the hill sideways. 2 things happen. This phone says, I don't quite understand. So I'm grabbing my pocket, and then a rock comes out of over and through a cedar tree bush and bounces a few times down to us. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm trying to think of what to do. My son says, are we just going to ignore the fact that we had a rock thrown at us? No, I'm trying to figure out what to do. We don't run, that's for sure. We need to. So we backed down slowly, faced whatever it was, and it started from there. That's where it all, we started talking about it. And I said, I got to tell you some things that happened to me back in the day. But anyway, you see all this stuff and it's not normal. And you try to figure out what did it. That's the first thing we looked for on the trees was a bucket off a tractor scuff or anything like piece of equipment. None of that. And what was amazing to me, every time all the thorns were intact. And those things are 3 or 4 inches long or better.
Oh yeah.
And
you can cut you.
They hurt. Yeah.
They'll go through a leather boot.
Yeah. Yeah. I had one go through this hand one night. Y'all talking about frog gigging? I was walking across a couple of trees that somebody had cut down across this ditch, and we were trying to get to the pond. It was grown up, and I wasn't paying attention, and my foot slipped between the 2 trees that were laying there. And when my hand hit that tree, it was locust, and there was one of them went through my hand. That was sore. I mean, it turned red. I thought I was going to go to the doctor, but back then, you just,
you didn't go to the doctor.
No, I didn't go to the doctor.
You didn't go to the doctor.
But
you
man,
get some advice from your granddad, rub some dirt on it, you'll be all right.
Exactly. Yeah. Or don't even tell me about it. I'm going to make fun of you. Man, I appreciate you. I'm fixing to have to get off here, but I just was looking for opportunity. I just wanted to come on really and say, keep up the good questions. Keep up what you're doing because you've been one of my favorites. I don't get to watch, and I was introduced to your show when Amanda was on, and I'm like, hey, this guy's actually thinking and asking good questions and keeping an open mind. That there needs to be more of this, and I appreciate what you're doing. So I really wanted to come on and just say that.
Before you run off, let me say this. Can you hang on just for a minute? I'm gonna end the show.
Yeah,
and I'll speak to you a little bit offline if you don't care.
Okay, that's cool.
I just want to thank everybody tonight. We had a great show. We had a couple great guys that are listeners that come on and talk. That's what I want. I was a little nervous about trying this. Right now, it's a hard time. Anybody runs a podcast to tell you it's a hard time to get guests because it is festival season.
Mhm.
Everybody's doing conferences, everybody's doing festivals and things like that. But I greatly appreciate you guys coming on. I'd like to give a couple shout outs. Andy Kilburn, Victoria Caprell. I'm gonna butcher that. I'm sorry. Mark Maciel. Appreciate you guys for the likes and the loves. Been a great show. I greatly appreciate the guys that listen. You guys, this is what the show's all about. It's about the people that listen. I want good information to be passed to everybody that's listening. So that being said, I hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Y'all be safe out there. Keep it squatchy. We'll see you next Monday night. Thank y'all.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. We are incredibly grateful for our community. Because of you, we've surpassed 6,700 subscribers and continue to grow every day. Our mission here at StevuR is simple: to provide a platform for honest, down-to-earth discussions about Bigfoot, free from drama and ridicule. If you've enjoyed the show, please help us spread the word. If you're interested in being a guest, you can reach us via our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or by emailing us at sasquatchwatchradio@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube to access our full archive dating back to 2008 and to stay updated on all upcoming episodes. If you've had a sighting or an encounter you'd like to report, let us know. We have a network of researchers across the United States ready to assist. You can now find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. Please leave us a comment and let us know what topics you'd like to hear next. We'll see you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until then, keep on squatching.